right, welcome into Yard Prep here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. I'm here with Louis Sung. You can follow me at Louis D. Sung. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports. Before we get started, we're sponsored here by Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. We did a Prize Picks show yesterday. It's here on the YouTube channel. Myself, Eric Wadicki, and David Eversole. There have been some changes since we played Mostert. Obviously, we're going to get into why that probably is not a good play. So make sure you check out the tweets that we put out prior to the game, our entire crew. But use that code 5 when you sign up. Again, get that initial deposit matched up to $100. It's legal in the state of Florida and the state of Maryland, by the way. And there are no rollovers. All right, Louis, let's get to it. We'll start here with the inactives. This is why we always wait to do the show until about an hour and a half before kickoff. Skylar Thompson, no surprise. Jaylen Waddle, we've known about for about 24 hours. The report from NFL Network today was that probably not going to play next week either, but should be available for the playoffs. I'll get to Mostert in a second. Robert Hunt, there was some optimism as the week went on, but I don't think we all expected him to play. Tyler Kroft, we knew he probably wouldn't be a factor. And Emmanuel Ogbah tweeted something that indicated that I think he was a little bit surprised by the inactive. I think it's pretty clear where this is going with Ogbah in the offseason. But let's get to Mostert here, because he's been he's been banged up all year, like with one thing or another. But McDaniel expressed to reporters late in the week that he was likely going to play, or he didn't indicate concern about him not playing. And now he's not playing. Devon Achane's active. Jeff Wilson's active, right? How do they handle this today, especially without having Waddle on the outside?
I mean, I would certainly hope that with the Miami Dolphins situation at running back, they would try to lean heavily on the, as Chris Kaufman of the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast would say, try to trust in the nuclear bomb that is Devon Achane and try to see if he can go off today. They've been limiting him. They've been trying to keep him relatively healthy throughout the year. They limited his reps just because they don't want to overuse him. But at this point, I feel like the Miami Heat structure of what you know how it is, Ethan. You've hung around Eric Spoelstra enough. He tries to keep his veterans relatively fresh. He likes to limit their time. Like what's the word? I'm blanking on what
load management.
Load management.
They will not. They refuse to use those words. It's a dirty phrase, but it's what they actually do.
Okay, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Load management. And I welcome Eric Wadicki into the show, who just now popped in, I guess from work. So I guess he's on his lunch break or something. Hello, Eric. How are you?
Good. How are you? Usually my job provides me a lot of free time, so I got that time.
All right. Yeah, you're a little on the quiet side, Eric. So just see if you can adjust that somewhere in the settings and in the moment. But Ethan, you're using words, and it's a good thing I'm talking because I can't hear a word you're saying.
No, I'm saying we're load managing Eric. So
yeah,
we were talking about load management before he came in. So we're resting his voice. Anyway, Louis, continue.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm thinking is that it's time to stop the load management with Devon Achane and just let him go off. Let him be the main starter. We've already seen what he can do. Even though he'd only played in 4 games, he was already up in the upper echelon of touchdowns and rushing yards a few weeks into the season. Then he had his little injury issue, and they put him on IR, and they brought him back 4 weeks later, and he was still somewhere up there in that list, even in spite of the fact. That's just how incredible this kid could potentially be. And so for the Miami Dolphins, if you don't have Raheem Mostert to lean on, the tied for the league lead in touchdowns overall. By the way, that league lead is with Christian McCaffrey of the 49ers, who Mostert jokingly mentioned, man, I just can't shake this guy. Well, yeah, because he's one of the best court players in the NFL. So right now you need to lean on Devon Achane. I suspect, and this is where I go into what I think they will do and rather than what they should do, I think they'll probably try to lean more on Jeff Wilson than Devon Achane, because you're trusting in the veteran who knows the system better, et cetera, et cetera. Not that I think that Jeff Wilson is bad. I just think that in a situation where you're with the Baltimore Ravens, who some might argue is actually the best team in football right now after they absolutely just unloaded on the San Francisco 49ers, who everybody thought was the best team in football up until last week. So I'm looking at this situation. They're in Baltimore. They're in dangerous territory. They need to take the crowd out of the game quickly. They need to make sure that they try to get a lead on Baltimore. They're gonna need all the weapons they can get their hands on. Devon Achane is a very dangerous player. So you still have Tyreek, which is good. You need Devon Achane out there too, because without Jaylen Waddle, you're leaning on Cedric Wilson, Chase Claypool, maybe Robbie Chosen, but Chosen made one really good catch, and that one really good catch knocked him out for the rest of the game. So we can't afford that right now.
Yeah, and I think they will unleash him, honestly, today. I think that this has been, we talk about it. McDaniel puts things in his pocket for later. You made the Heat analogy earlier. Spoelstra does the same thing. It's sort of a preparation for particular games. And I think that today you'll see them because look, they need the speed. I mean, we rarely say this about the Dolphins, but when you're without two of your four fastest players on offense, the two guys who are in there are going to need to be featured, I think. And look, he'll use Jeff Wilson, I think, inside the 20. We've seen him be effective in those situations. I like how he runs. He doesn't cheat you on yardage. Like he gets what's there, basically, and maybe sometimes a little bit more. So I think he can be a factor today. I think actually, Eric, and we talked about this on Prize Picks, but I think it's even more of a case now. I think I would play Durham Smythe today. I would play Braxton Berrios today. I just think that this is a game like you can't put it all on Tyreek, all of it. Like obviously he's going to have to make plays when they're there, but we've seen them use the tight end a little bit more, and I think we've seen that when one of these guys is out, whether it's Hill or Waddle, sometimes two is a little bit more effective. The numbers suggest it, the eye test suggests it. Like you, Braxton Berrios over 13 and a half receiving yards. I might play that today. Durham Smythe over 19 and a half. Give it to me. Like that's to me, that's a absolute given today. Use the code 5FIV. You see at 56 last week. How would you spread things out on offense today, Eric?
Yeah, I think you're going to go with a more balanced offensive attack if you're the Dolphins. This is going to be a game where, when you don't have as many options for explosive plays, no Jaylen, Waddle, no Mostert, you're going to have drives that are a little bit more drawn out. And I think that the last few weeks kind of actually prepared them for this a little bit because that's been more so the type of offense they have been running. So I would, like you said, I would go with a lot of Smythe today. I think you're going to see a lot of Cedric Wilson, even some Braxton Berrios. Even it wouldn't surprise me to see Devon Achane come out of the slot on a few plays and give them something, just some kind of wrinkle that gets added here against Baltimore. This is the game that you save your wrinkles for. I think they have been doing that. So I look for them, number one, to spread the ball around, number two, to show us something that we haven't seen.
Let's roll over, Eric. If you could, we're hearing you, but it's low. So just do what you
Okay.
can to just protect it. But I caught most of it. So let's keep moving on from here again, and we'll pivot back to Tua. But one thing I did want to say, and I said this on the playback show that Inside Leverage was doing. Make sure you guys catch those guys on game days. Is that the weather is favorable today. I went to college in Baltimore for 4 years. I know how it can get around December and January. I've been trapped in an apartment for a week during a blizzard. You could do a lot worse than 46 degrees with no wind. So I think that as we look at the cold weather games for the Dolphins this year, they really haven't materialized. And so that's a positive, and I think that's a positive for Tua being able to throw the ball deep here a little bit today. I think this actually plays into Miami's hands somewhat. The fact that the conditions are going to be pretty good for a December January game in the Mid Atlantic. Lewis, let's go over to the defensive side today. It's funny how certain players have just emerged over the course of this year. Van Ginkel being one, obviously, that you kind of know what you're going to get from him. Bradley Chubb's been tremendous for the last 6 weeks. He's made one mistake, which cost them obviously in the Tennessee game. But other than that, he's been almost dominant. Honestly, I mean, to me, he's been he and Van Ginkel have provided the most since Cameron Wake was here. Actually, in terms of pass rush, I know Agba did for that one season, but those two guys have been terrific. But to me, I look at it this way: you had Holland questionable, you had Howard questionable, you had Ramsey questionable. They're all active today. So the losses on the offense, yes, that's a concern. They knew about Waddle, Mostert, but having that core secondary, unless someone is seriously banged up, it looks like they're all good enough to go. I think Miami's going to be able to control Baltimore on the defense. To me, I'm putting this game on the Dolphin defense.
Yeah, put the game on the Dolphins defense because that's the only thing that was going to be able to make sure that they win this game. I'll be clear about something. Right now, Baltimore's defense, they love to run cover 3. They love to get all those safeties up there, make it so that Tyreek they're going to try to bottle up Tyreek big time because he knows how badly he burned them last year. They don't have Kyle Hamilton. That's like the way that Jaylen Ramsey was the crux of our defense. And as soon as he came back, everything started to fall into place. In many ways, Kyle Hamilton is that guy for the Baltimore Ravens. He is out. So there is a really distinct possibility that the offense can get some points. Lamar Jackson is the problem. Like, never mind anybody else. Forget everybody else on that offense. Zay Flowers is his only real wide receiver that you can really count on right now. Mark Andrews is out. Flowers is active, but he's hobbled a bit. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. Lamar Jackson is one of the only players in the NFL who by himself, and I do literally mean by himself, can win a football game. All he has to do, like, I'm not going to be one of those guys who says that Lamar Jackson can't throw. I'm going to be one of those guys who says Lamar Jackson doesn't have to throw. He doesn't. All you have to do is give him one lane to run through, and he could basically play the whole game by himself. He really could. Just give him an offensive line and some people to block in front of him, and he will run for 30 yards at a time all the way to the end zone every single drive. He has that he kind of has that talent. He has that speed. He has everything that you could want in a dual threat quarterback. You need to stop Lamar Jackson, because the reason the Dolphins were in a position last season where they had to make that massive comeback that we were all so excited to see, and we were like, oh my God, this is the greatest game that I've ever seen in my life, up until the Denver Broncos game this year. But the whole reason that we were in that position to begin with was because the defense could not put a lid on Lamar Jackson in any way, shape, or form. That last touchdown that the Ravens got was a 75-yard run by Lamar Jackson. He just decided, oh, I don't want to be in the pocket anymore, and he was gone. You couldn't catch him. You cannot allow that to happen again. Lamar Jackson, you need to bottle him up. And I hesitate to say this because this is still a dangerous thing to do. Make him play quarterback. Don't let him be a running back who throws the football. Make sure that he has his legs contained like, he's going to run. He's going to get his yards. But if you can limit him to like 50 yards rushing throughout the game, that's honestly pretty good for Lamar Jackson. Do not let him take over this football game. That if you can make him do that, then Zay Flowers is hobbled. The Ravens don't have a whole lot of other weapons on offense they can count on. So that's your shot. Stop Lamar Jackson, win the game.
I'm glad you mentioned those first three quarters last year, because everybody forgets them because of what Tua did in the fourth. But Miami did look hapless against him defensively. I think they're better suited this time around. And I think they're better suited this time around, mostly because of the guy that we criticized earlier in the year, which was Fangio. I just think if you look, again, Jalen Ramsey being healthy is huge. Like, we can talk about the injuries. The Dolphins had significant injuries. There's no question. Robert Hunt being out, I mean, they've gotten used to it at this point, but it matters still because we know how consistent he was prior to him going out. And obviously, Mostert going out. We know running backs are mostly replaceable, particularly in this system. Raheem's had a great year, but Jeff Wilson can do some of the same things. Waddle, again, they have Tyreek Hill. I look, some of the Baltimore absences to me matter. Like, Andrews matters. Like, that's a guy that he's counted on a little bit. Defensively, again, a core safety being out matters. Dolphins secondary is healthy. Is it that? I mean, I know it's not that simple, Lewis. You're not even portraying it as that simple, but keeping Lamar in the pocket. Like, I watched Lamar come to Miami, was it 3-4 years ago? I can't remember the exact date, and tear the Dolphins apart from the pocket. So it does seem like the lesser of two evils. I'm with Lewis on this, but who is it on then? Is it on Jaylen X? They got to get a pick today. How do they make life complicated for Lamar if they keep him in the pocket?
I mean, it's really number. Firstly, you guys can hear me okay right now, right?
If you project your voice, we can hear you good.
We hear you. Yeah, we're better.
Speak it with your chest, Eric. Speak it with your chest.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So no. So really, when it comes down to defensively for this team, and it's a question that I kind of wanted to pose to you guys because of what you mentioned with hobbled Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely kind of leading the receiving corps. Jalen Ramsey's mentioned he's been getting bored, right? And I think Xavier Howard could handle a top billing of Zay Flowers. I trust Kader Koku on an Odell at this point. Nick Needham. If there's a day to let Jalen Ramsey kind of, roam and do his own thing on defense, this is the day to do it. Because I'm not intimidated by these Ravens receivers. I'm fine with them going one-on-one with any of them. I'm unleashing Jalen Ramsey today. I'm telling him, you know what, you can play kind of that hybrid safety role. Some plays maybe even spy Lamar. Some plays just kind of roam. This is a game where I'm looking at this Ravens offense, and I'm saying, you know what, I want my best guys focused on Lamar Jackson. I trust the guys. I trust David Long, especially. I think he's going to be big in this one because anytime you have a linebacker with pursuit skills like David Long has, and a quarterback likes to get out of the pocket. It's just a massive thing to have. But I think it's going to be Jalen Ramsey kind of roaming around and creating havoc all over the field today.
And it's interesting. I think Jalen's on there with half a pick on Prize Picks. I have to check it. I'm with you. You know, we talked about how stringent Fangio was about how using Ramsey just one way, and then he made it switch during the Dallas game. I mean, they made an adjustment, and look at what CeeDee Lamb did last night. So look at what could have happened against Miami if they hadn't made an adjustment. All right, a couple of Prize Picks I like. I mentioned Durham Smythe, 19.5 receiving yards. Isaiah Likely at 43.5 receiving yards. We talked about that one yesterday. I didn't go up, so I'm taking it. To me, that one feels fairly safe today. Again, check
Do
the
you like
entire
any
board.
of the Do you like any of the demons and goblins that the Price Picks have there?
I'll tell you that Tyreek Demon is high. Goblin, excuse me. I can't keep it straight. Demon is
The
high.
goblin is green, the demon is red.
Yeah, the Demons means it's a little extra yards, but you get a little extra payout. I will tell you the Tyreek one is what 123.5, I think, or something along those lines on the Demon. And it was 124.5. 69.5 feels safe, but you're not going to get much of a payout on that 97.5. The thing about Tyreek that worries me is when does he come up with a hamstring tweak that keeps him out for 2 series? I don't know. I mean, it's gonna happen at some point, right? I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but it seems to happen every game to Waddle and or Hill. So that would be a bit of a concern. Like I said, I might play some of the peripheral guys. Jason Sanders at 1.5 field goals with no wind in Baltimore is an interesting play. Also, kind of like that one. There, I think he came up there. Is he still? Oh, they took it down. 7.5 fantasy score. So, wow, he's been over that. Well, there you go. I mean, he's been kicking field goals lately. So that's our guy David Freeman loves the kickers. He's been making money on kickers for weeks, while playing some of the unders on some of the others. All right, let's get to the picks here, guys. Want to let everybody get to the game, and I will have a post game show afterwards. Man, I want to pick Miami today. I do. I really do. Like I think this team is different. I think they've learned lessons over the course of the year. Secondary being intact is a real positive today. I think they lose by a field goal. I do. I do. I don't know. The Baltimore game. I guess it should change my mind because the way they rallied back in the fourth quarter last year. But so many of these Baltimore Miami games over the years have just not gone the right way, and it just feels like the season is destined to come down to next Sunday in Miami against the Buffalo Bills. Like
Well,
just that's where we started. I think that's where we end.
Well, let's clarify though. The Dolphins are already in the playoffs. They've clinched their
Yes.
playoff berth. It's just a question of
Yes.
where do they have to go in the playoffs. So that's what we're going for
Yes.
here.
All right, so I'm picking the Ravens by 3, which basically means I'm a total wuss on this because that is the spread, actually. Eric, go to you, and I'll let Lewis close.
Yeah, this is going to strike me. This is very similar to the game on Christmas Eve last year in Buffalo. The Dolphins are going to fight. This is going to be close. They're going to lose by 3, maybe 4 points. I got it 24-20. They're going to prove to us that they can play, but everybody in the media is going to say that they're still frauds after this.
That's how the Chiefs game went. I mean, I think it feels like a similar. Look, here's the thing. Against this team, we know John Harbaugh, those teams, particularly late in the season, they don't make a ton of critical mistakes. Like they're teams that tend to get better as the year goes on. It's a little bit like Tomlin teams. And again, they're playing at home. That crowd that's a rough place to play, particularly this time of year. It's New Year's Eve. Everybody gonna be liquored up. Yeah, it's a test. Lewis, are you gonna break the streak here? You like the Dolphins today?
I like the Dolphins, but I don't like the Dolphins to win. I'm gonna complete the hat trick. I don't know what it. I don't. It's not that I don't trust the team to win against good teams. I'm not gonna go there, but these Ravens, man. These Ravens are scrappy. They are physical. They are the kind of team that will punch you in the mouth and laugh about it when you start to bleed. So I don't. These Ravens and Lamar Jackson right now is my MVP of the league. Like no one else comes close because again, like I mentioned earlier, Lamar Jackson is probably the only player in the entire NFL who by himself, this was the clarification that I asked people about. What does it mean to put a team on your back and carry them to victory? If you want to go through that criteria, there's only two or three guys in the whole NFL who can do that. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And the only reason they have that criteria is because they can run just about as well as they can throw. And in Lamar Jackson's case, you can argue he runs better than he throws. So I trust the Dolphins defense to stop any quarterback except for the kind of quarterback who's also a running back. So I'm going to say that the Dolphins lose this game. It's going to go down to, I won't say that they're going to score a lot. I'll go ahead and say that this game's going to come down to like a 24-20 kind of score. And yeah, I see Parrish Stevens saying that I'm gutless. Like, yeah, I don't care, man. I'm gutless then. If the Dolphins win, I'll be very happy, obviously. But we're physical on both sides. It's going to be a tough game. I just think that when it comes down to it, Lamar Jackson's going to make one more play that Tua can't make because Tua doesn't run. This is the era of the running quarterback.
All right, I'll put it here, though. Okay, it's just for Parrish and everybody else. I do think the Dolphins win next week. I do think they win next week.
I know. I'm picking them for next week. Absolutely. I don't think they lose to Buffalo again.
I think the Buffalo hype train's gotten out of control lately. I don't think that's the same Bills team that we saw earlier in the year. And I think that Miami beats them at home in a similar type game to the way that they beat Dallas. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think they win it. Like I said, I went to college in 4 years in Baltimore. I've gone to a lot of the games that the Dolphins have played at that stadium and vice versa. Last year was the only one that ended in satisfying fashion. What was it? Flacco who went like 28 of 31 against them a few years ago. Like different teams, different players. I understand it. I get it.
And Joe Flacco's having himself a career revival in Cleveland somehow.
Deshaun Watson trade, worst trade in NFL history. Russell Wilson's second worst. But I'll say this. I think they're going to keep it close today. Parrish likes them by 4. All right, we'll see. Here's what I'll say. If Tua goes up there, plays efficiently, doesn't make the big mistake, you can't have those 1 or 2 throws he has that were like, what the hell was that, right? Plays efficiently. McDaniel gets the plays in on time, okay? Doesn't outthink himself. Gives the ball to Jeff Wilson inside the 10 or A-chain on his screen. Something simple. Nothing crazy. No more fades.
No more end zone fades. Oh, my God. Throw that play into the sun.
If he does that stuff, and I'll tell you what, and I'm with you, Lewis, right now. Lamar Jackson's my MVP also. Tua goes up there, is impressive, outplays Lamar, and gets this win in Baltimore. Puts that in position for the number 1 seed. Tua Tagovailoa is my MVP. To me, this is an MVP elimination game because that guy in San Francisco is just pushing buttons. That's it. Tua has done more than just push buttons this year. And I'm not getting to Josh Allen with all those interceptions. We obviously know Mahomes and Hurts have eliminated themselves. And it's going to be a quarterback. They're not going to give it to McCaffrey. They're not going to give it to Tyreek. We know that. Voters ultimately will choose the quarterback. Tua can go up there and wins this game. And he is a big part of this without Waddle, without Mostert.
And Lamar Jackson will still win MVP because they will refuse outright to give it to Tua.
Then we can argue about it. Because if that's the case, the numbers are going to support Tua, and the win on Lamar's home field is going to support Tua, and the number 1 seed is going to support Tua, and then we can bang the drum about it. But you got to go up and do that today. Thanks to Eric. Thanks to Lewis. Enjoy the game today. We hope you do. And again, check out the post-game stuff and also all the podcasts that we sponsor here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. All Dolphins, also 3 yards per carry, of course, and all of our other content during the week. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.